Hi, I'm Bill Gaver.
And I'm Fran Gaber. I'm in California and my son Bill is in London. One of the ways we've been keeping in touch for the last 2 years is using light touch to send colored lights to each other.
It's very simple, but we found it surprisingly compelling. In this talk, we're going to describe our experiences and our reflections about why it works for us. This report is a retrospective ethnography in which we describe our experiences and use them to understand light touch and this sort of interaction more generally. To be clear, I was a member of the team that designed light touch. That probably influenced us in trying it out, but I don't think either of us would have used our lights for long if they hadn't been genuinely compelling. Light touch was one of 4 communication devices called yo-yo machines that we designed in response to a call for projects that could make an impact during COVID-19. Our team at the Interaction Research Studio based our designs on the myriad of similar expressive communication devices that have appeared over the years and which we review in the paper. We designed light touch on the other yo-yo machines as self-build devices that people can make at home by following detailed instructions for assembling the hardware and for constructing enclosures from household materials. I used the website like anybody else when I made my mom's and my light touches, but instead of making one of the enclosures described on the site, I designed my own. This is my light touch, and my mother has one that is essentially identical. It's made from an empty nut container that I've covered with brown paper. There's a circle of white foam board wedged about halfway inside it. This separates the section for seeing the lights from the section with the electronics, which are tucked away behind this plastic lid. The 2 LEDs are hidden behind this inverted mirror, which reflects the light back into the enclosure. And a metal piece at the top is connected to the microprocessor to act as a capacitive touch switch. Light touch is a simple device to use. My mother controls one LED on each of the devices and I control the other. Pressing and holding the capacitive touch switch causes the LED that I control to cycle between colors. When I see a color I like, I let go of the switch to select it. To send it to my mother, I tap on the switch. She does the same to send a color back to me. The colors fade slowly over about 6 hours before disappearing completely. I made both of our light touches and connected them together in my home, then shipped one to my mother in California. It took my mother a lot of time to fight her way into the package I sent. Once she did, she plugged in her light touch, and we met on Zoom to get them working together. Here's a short excerpt of that call. At this point, we've already spent a few minutes trying to get them to work, and I'm getting a bit frustrated that they're not connected. Well, it's not good. Okay, try pushing your finger on. Show me on the camera while you put your finger on the metal ring and hold it down.
On this thing?
Oh, no.
This one.
Very tight. That's it. Good, you did it.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, now, do you see it's changing color? You see that?
I do.
That's how you select a color.
Oh.
So like that blue. Now you selected blue. Now just press it, just tap on that ring and you'll send it to me. And yeah, I got it. So after some confusion, we got them working. The whole process actually took less than 5 minutes, though it felt longer to me. And over the next few weeks, we got used to using the light touches with each other. At first, my mother's light touch dropped Wi-Fi periodically, which stopped the lights from working. It took us a while, but we realized that power cycling her light would bring it back, and this became routine enough that we stopped discussing it. We settled into a routine in which we enjoyed sending and receiving lights to each other. Mostly we would mention this as side comments in emails that were about other topics, like the exchange shown here. But then...
the back of my light touch started coming off, spilling the inside out. I told Bill there was a design flaw because the power cord was halfway up the side and I kept pulling the back off the device. I kept putting it back on again, and everything worked until finally it came off one more time, and one of the wires inside had come unattached. I called Bill for help, and with the use of my iPhone and the iPad, we managed to get the wire back in place, and all was well. But then it happened again, and this time the wire had become unattached from the top switch. Fixing this was absolutely the most difficult part of this whole adventure. I finally managed to get the wire through the little hole in the top, and then I resorted to brute force. I taped the wire down on top and taped the back onto the whole thing many times, and finally used packaging tape to tape the whole device onto the back of the cabinet where I keep it.
My mother was right. The power cable tended to pull the lid off the back of the light touch, which made it really easy for wires to become disconnected. To me, this was a disaster. I doubted that my mother would be willing or able to fix her light touch. It's very fiddly. I thought I would have to build a completely new light touch and send it to my mother if we were going to continue using them. But my mother surprised me by insisting on fixing it herself, and amazingly, she got the device working again. I took this as a sign that she really liked using light touch, as do I. I also realized that all the tape she used to strengthen and secure her light touch may not be beautiful, but it actually made a much better design than the one I sent her. The pesky wire disaster was the end of the beginning for me, and after that the light touch became a pretty stable part of our everyday lives. Most of the paper describes what this is like in detail. Here we're just going to skim over some of the features of using light touch. We encourage you to read the paper for a more nuanced account. My light touch is on my desk in a small home study off our bedroom. My mother's light touch is in her living dining room where it is easily visible throughout the day. I tend to see my light touch periodically throughout the day, particularly when I'm working at home, and almost always in the mornings and evenings. I also send light several times a day whenever I see that my light has become dim. Mostly I pick colors that reflect my mood, the time, or the weather. For instance, I tend to send blue in the evening because it's a calm, peaceful color. In the mornings, on the other hand, I'm more likely to send pink or yellow or red to suggest that my energy is rising and I'm getting ready for the day ahead. Usually we see each other's colors after they've been sent, but occasionally we see lights the moments they've been sent. And when we see this, we often get into a kind of quick dialogue with each other. And that's very special. As my mom says, it feels almost like a physical touch across some 5,000 miles of space. Our paper contains a more nuanced discussion of using light touch in everyday life. We also point to features that lead to its success for us. Probably most notable is the slow fade, which allows it to work across the 8-hour time difference and in spaces that we don't always occupy. Contextual effects, ambient light, other activities, and so on, are also important. Most important, we think, is that light touch suits our relationship as mother and son, in which we like the feeling of being continually in touch without necessarily needing more focused communication on a day-to-day basis. What we want to do most in this paper, however, is to convey just how important light touch has been to us.
I don't think Bill mentioned that I recently turned 94, and my geographical world has certainly shrunk since I don't think it's safe for me to travel anymore. But the light touch expands my world. When I get ready to go to bed, I send a light to Bill to say goodnight. And then if I'm up in the night and see a light from him, I know Bill's thinking of me and saying good morning. That means a lot to me.